You've heard of Lord of the Flies, a group of boys stranded on an island. They turn into savages. They kill each other. But what if the exact opposite happened? In 1965, 6 real teenage boys were shipwrecked for 15 months. No adults, no rescue. And instead of chaos, they built a civilization. Here's what really happens when you leave kids alone on an island. It started with boredom. 6 boys, ages 13 to 18, were students at St. Andrew's Anglican School in Tonga's capital, Nuku'alofa. They were restless. They wanted adventure. So they made a plan. They would steal a boat and sail to Fiji, or maybe even New Zealand, hundreds of miles away. Their supplies? A few sacks of bananas, some coconuts, and a small gas burner. No map, no compass, no life jackets. On a June night in 1965, they climbed into a 24-foot fishing boat belonging to a fisherman they didn't like and pushed off into the dark. The sea was calm at first. They took turns steering. Then they fell asleep. And that's when everything went wrong. A storm ripped through their anchor line, their sail, and their rudder. Within hours, they were adrift in the South Pacific with no engine and no way to steer. For 8 days they drifted. No food, almost no water. The boat was leaking. They bailed water with their hands, using anything they could find. One of the boys later said, "We prayed, knowing only God could save us." On the 8th day they saw it, a tiny speck on the horizon, an island called Ata, so remote and rugged it had been abandoned for over a century after a slave raid took its people. They didn't hesitate. They jumped into the water with planks from their wrecked boat and swam. For 36 hours straight, when they finally crawled onto the beach, they collapsed, cried, said a prayer, and passed out. That was day 1. When they woke up, they explored. The island was a volcanic crater rising out of the Pacific. Steep cliffs, dense jungle. And then they found something incredible. The ruins of an old village called Colomail. Feral chickens roaming everywhere. Wild taro and bananas growing where people had once lived. One of the boys, Stephen, started a fire using 2 sticks. That fire never went out for the next 15 months. They made a pact. No fighting, no hoarding. Whatever you get, you share. And they built a system. A roster for cooking. A roster for gardening. A roster for keeping watch. Though against what, nobody could say. They built huts by weaving coconut fronds. They carved a makeshift guitar from driftwood and coconut shell. They wrote songs. Every day began and ended with a prayer and a sing-along. One boy, Stephen, fell off a cliff and broke his leg. The others said it with sticks and leaves, used seawater to clean the wound, and nursed him for 2 months. He healed completely. They tried to escape once on a homemade raft. It broke apart a mile from shore. Later they realized, if it had held, they would have sailed south into thousands of miles of open ocean. They would have died. The island had saved them. After 6 months, something broke inside them. No one had come. No search boats, no planes. They realized, back home, their families had already held funerals. They were presumed dead. One boy, Tavita, the youngest at 13, started missing his parents desperately. The others didn't mock him. They surrounded him. They became his brothers. That's what held them together. Not rules, not the roster. Brotherhood. On September 11, 1966, an Australian lobster fisherman named Peter Warner was sailing past Ata when he noticed burnt grass on the cliffs. He aimed his binoculars at the shore and saw a group of wild-haired, sun-darkened teenage boys, completely naked, jumping up and down and screaming. One of them, Stephen, swam out to the boat. He pulled himself onto the deck and said, "My name is Stephen. We've been here 15 months. Warner radioed Tonga. 20 minutes later, the answer came back. You found them. These boys have been missing for over a year. Funerals have already been held. If it's them, it's a miracle. But the story doesn't end there. When Warner brought the boys back to Tonga, they were greeted by cheering crowds. There were celebrations, and then they were arrested. The fishermen whose boat they stole pressed charges. They spent several days in jail before Warner helped secure their release by selling the rights to their story to an Australian TV station. He used the money to pay off the fishermen. After that, Warner offered all 6 boys jobs on his fishing boat. They sailed together for years.